Yeah, I was going to cover a couple of different things today. So we'll continue with creating layers using different filters, but I was going to start dropping other bits and pieces in, so we don't end up with everything complicated at the end. We'll introduce a bit each each time.
Yeah.
So um, but what we'll do is this I've put back to a default because I had two people come up to me Monday saying the option they had wasn't where it was on my screen type thing. So for all of you where you may have moved things around and lost um, panels or something, there is a way to go back to default. And the way you can do that, um, well, that's it. So you can go up to Window, and there's an option there called Studio, and you can say Reset, and that will basically take it back to like factory settings, shall we say.
Right.
So if you've got a problem and you can't find something that's not being shown here, that's how you can get back. Which is what I've done. I won't do it again because it's still in that mode. Um, what you do have in this window is all the other options here for different panels. So we're going to open a couple later. I'm going to introduce you to macros and maybe do a very simple one. And it's a way of shortcutting uh, the system by um, recording a series of events that you have to perform. And you record it and you save it, give it a name. And every time you want to do that, you just hit the button and it does it. So we're going to use it for uh, inpainting the edges of photos, and we'll record that. So hopefully you'll be able to follow what I've done and make your own macro. Once you've made one, it's pretty easy to keep creating new ones. Um, so if there's certain things, every time you open a photo, you do half a dozen things straight away. You could record all of that and just play it, and it will create all the layers for you. And then you could go in and just modify the layers for that particular um, image. That's what we'll try tonight.
Is
Okay.
that is that where you get your basic when you first put excuse me, when you first put a raw in and you've got basic comes up on the right hand side? Is that a macro that you made called
No, no.
Oh, I don't know because I
Yeah,
haven't got that.
yeah. No, that's yeah, no, don't do that. That's the what we'll do is we'll just do another um uh filter layer first. And the one I
Okay.
want to discuss today, if we just click on the button here, is curves, because that's quite a common one to want to use. And so we've done things like um, uh, brightness, levels, exposure. Curves is another one for modifying the contrast of your photo. So we've got one here. This is actually a stock photo, and I'll tell you a little bit more about stock in a moment. So it's not one of mine, but it means that you can go and find a picture like this very easily to try something out on. I did share it, so uh, you should be able to download it. But I'll show you the stock in a moment. So what we got here is a panel, and it's showing you um, you got the overall in this light blue, which is basically the same as you can see up here on the histogram. And you've also got the color separation as well. So it's showing you Um, it's showing that here that most of the reds are in the darker side, whereas most of the blues are more in the lighter area, which you can see in the sky, basically. So um, starting on the left is black and going to the right is white. Um, now, what we with levels, you're basically you can do it here. Basically, you can move in one side. If you remember from was it last week, week before, you can adjust the levels by just moving these two um, markers in. So you can see that getting lighter if I move that over, and you can see it getting darker if I move this corner over. Now, obviously, that's not generally how you want to use it. What we'll do, and you've probably heard of it, is basically make a bit of an S curve. So what you can do is, I'll just move that up a little bit. Yeah. If I click somewhere on the line, and you'll see the cursor change. Oh, Control Z. Hang on. You'll see my cursor change to a little plus, smaller cursor and a little plus. Click, and I can move this curve. That's why it's called curves. So if I bring this down, what I want to do is increase the contrast on this photo. So I want to make the darks, which is this end of the graph, I want to bring them down. And if I click again on the other side, on the light area, I can boost it up a little bit. And you'll get what generally called an S curve. So what we've done, we've boosted the lights and darkened the darks. So if I come over to here and just turn this layer off, you can see it's straight away the basic picture looks fairly bland. And just by doing this, we've brought in some extra contrast and giving the building better definition. And you can do what you like with this. You usually work on the master, which is basically all the colors at the same time. And I would say 90%, 95% of the time, that's what you'll do. Very occasionally, you might just want to alter one color. So you could come into blue and you see you've got a blue line. And I could take the blue and move it up or down. But you have to be careful with it because you can see what it's doing. It's making odd colors. So you have to have a fairly good reason for doing it. I generally don't do it that often. You have to have a good. So most of the time, just leave it on master. Certainly when you're first trying it out, and leave it like that. So that's a very easy way of increasing the contrast in your photo. So if we come to this option here again, so that was the curves. Shadows and highlights. Again, it's very much like what you can do in Lightroom and what have you. So you can, these sliders this slider will only affect the very dark areas of the photo. So you can see the windows there changing, but the sky, nothing's happening. So it's a very good way of just affecting the darker areas, or you might want to lighten them. So quite often, the two effects you might want, one is to darken the shadows, and obviously the one you quite often do is actually bring the shadows up a bit, particularly in you see it in landscape quite a lot. There might be a dark area, and you just want to bring it up a little bit so that you can see the detail. And you can do the same with the highlights. Instead of it being too bright, you might want to darken the highlight. So you can increase it, obviously, but you can also mute it down a bit as well. So you can use this. Generally, you would use it if you've got a photo where it's too dark and bright, you know, there's no room to move the photo around. So if I just click those two again, if you look at the histogram and what's happening, so if I increase the darks, you should see it going more into the dark. It's already right up against the edge anyway. You probably see it more with the highlights. So I can pull, yeah, I'm pulling the highlights right over, which is ridiculous. But I can also push it slightly the other way, and you can see it going more into the edge. Again, be careful. You shouldn't, if possible, you shouldn't clip anything. And again, if you want to reset these values, you can either hit the reset, or if you're just doing one, just double click the button, the little circle in the middle, double click that, and it'll go back to 0. So the highlights, I'll bring down the shadow just to give it a little bit more in the windows here. So, and it gives him sensible names. So generally speaking, I don't change them unless for some reason I want to do it multiple times. And that might be because I want to use a brush and mask some of it out, in which case I might give it a specific name, you know. So that's one area. Now we'll go to, I don't know if anybody, if I roll my wheel, mine scrolls out and scrolls in. I think the default is it will scroll up and down. I don't find that very useful. I prefer roll the wheel in and out, and hold the wheel down will pan left to right. So if I want to go and look at something, it also zooms in from the point where your cursor is. So I can very easily zoom in on an area just using my mouse wheel. And to do that, if you go into Edit, Settings, this is where I'll have to try and remember. I think it's under Tools. Yeah. You've got an option here. Yeah, just here. Use the mouse wheel to zoom. And if you tick that, you'll get that behavior. So that's quite a useful one to use if that's the way you like to use it. I personally do, because I don't have to use any other keys to do zooming. I find that very, very useful. So I'll quickly look in that area. Just roll the wheel, job done. Right, so we've got two adjustments here. Very much the same as any other adjustment. You can, if you wish, if I go back to the curves, again, if I use a paintbrush, so if I just press B for paint for brush, and go over here, histogram, I actually want to see the color panel, and I can pick black and white. And as you can see here, if I turn the hardness up,
How did you get the color panel to come?
you've got histogram, and the next tab is color.
Thank you.
You just pick between them. There's usually a menu here. You've got the triangle. You can change it to, you've got a wheel, you can change it to sliders. You can change the way you change the color. So, you know, you can just turn it around, you can see it changing. And I can change the darkness and what have you by moving the little circle in the middle. Personally, I tend to use the sliders. I prefer the sliders myself. Or you can just click anywhere inside here to get a color. Or if you want to get a color off the image, you've got this little picker. If you left click on that, move, and you just move it around and you just let go, and it changes the color, what is in the photo. So it's a very easy way to match your brush up. So there we go, just matched up. Okay, that's the little picker, and this is the color tablet there. So I want to go to put that one back to black. Okay, and you know which one's selected because you got the full circle. So I got the full circle, it's white. I got the full circle, it's black. Now, as we know, with this curves layer, we've made the windows darker. And if I pick up my brush, I can brush out that darkness, and it will show up on the panel here. So, or I could just press X and get white again, and I can paint it back in. You can see it disappearing on the cursor here. There we go. And it should be, yeah, that's all gone. So it works like all the other things we've done. You can create an adjustment layer. You can pick up a brush and you can brush it out or brush it back in. So generally speaking, black to brush it out and white to bring it back to what the original adjustment was. Okay, so that's just reiterating really the same behavior for all the adjustments we've been doing. Now I thought we'll pick something a little bit extra to do tonight that you can play with, and we'll do straightening and perspective. So the first one we covered is, I'm not quite sure if that's vertical or not. A bit hard to tell. So one way of doing that is go to View, and you've got an option there called Show Grid. So if we look here, it's pretty straight. It's fairly straight. So having that grid can be quite useful. But what we've done, and you saw John demonstrate it Monday night, we don't have that line option, draw two lines and say that they're the vertical bits. But you can change the perspective. So what you can do is, and by the way, this is destructive. Oh no, can I? Let me check. There might be a non-destructive perspective. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, we'll do it this way. So we've got a perspective here, and we'll go for the default to begin with. Okay. And we can see that the edges of this building are going up into a vanishing point, basically somewhere way above the top of the image. And it's because of the way the photo was taken. It was probably taken at ground level, and the camera's pointed up, looking up at an angle, and you're getting the lines as they get further away, they're getting closer together. That's basically what's happening with perspective. Now we can adjust for that. What you can see is you've got four little squares on the corners of the photo. And what you can do is you can start dragging them out. So if I just grab it and just start moving out, and you can see the building straightening. Oh, gone a little bit off horizontal. That's better. Just snap to horizontal. Make sure your snap tools are turned on. It does help. And I can move the other side out. And it's a little bit of push me, pull you. So as I'm straightening this side up, you can see the opposite side is starting to be pulled over again. So what I tend to do is go a little bit past, and then when I straighten this side up, hopefully it will balance it out. So that's not too bad. So I've completely squared up this photograph. If I use the bottom ones, I can slim it down. What I'll do is I'll do this just purely because I want to show something else. So we've moved it in again, so we don't need to be so harsh about there. Is that right? So it is a bit suck it and see. There we go. I'm fairly happy with that. Okay. And when I'm happy with that, I'll just hit the X and away we go. So what I want to do now is there's two things I could do. I could either crop the photo, but in this particular case, um, if you're thinking of taking photos of buildings and you know you're gonna have a perspective problem, always shoot wider than you need, so you've got more room at the sides to do this type of manipulation. But in this case, we already had the photo. So what we would normally do is we want to fill these areas in, we want to clone them in, or use the Inpainting brush tool. So you could just pick up the brush tool and start trying to just fill it in. Oh, hardness is a bit low. Control Z, but that can be a little bit awkward. So there is an actual way, and it is similar to what John did the other night, which is you can say select, and you can select different things. So one of the things you can select is alpha range. Alpha meaning um, uh, invisible, or transparent if you prefer. So we can select fully or partially. In this case, it probably doesn't make an awful lot of difference. We'll select them. I might need to trim right. Okay, what I probably need to do is sometimes some of the effects are working on outside the area. So what I sometimes like to do is just purely do oh, I didn't get the right menu there. Click on, that's better. Click on here, and you've got all of these changes, and what I want to do is merge visible. So now we've got this particular layer baked in, and the other thing I can do to it is rasterize and trim it. So now if I pick it up, it is exactly this size. So now what I can do is go select, do partial. It's pick these areas here, done all of them at the same time. Then what you can do is remember where I hardly ever use it because I made a macro for it. There's a grow option. Oh, there we go. Grow and shrink. So I want to grow that option, and I'll grow it by 3 pixels. Just type in, I'm down here now. I'll grow it by 3 pixels. So I'll just type 3 in, hit carriage return. And if you carefully look, you see it's grown it. Instead of it being on the edge, it's moved it in a little bit. We just apply that. And then there's an option called Inpaint. So we just select Inpaint. He has a little think about it, and it paints it in. And there we go. Then we would deselect, and we've now got our photo. And as you saw, that was quite a few steps to do that. So, well, one thing, I'd get a bit bored having to do that every time. Also, you have to remember how to do it every time.
Yeah.
So if I Control Z, let's go to history, Z, Rasterise. Yeah, I'll go back to that point there. No, I'll go one back. I'll go to that point there. So this time I know what I want to do. I know I'm gonna want to do this on lots of photos in the future. So how can I make it easier for myself? So that if we go up to window, like we said, these are all the other panels. And there's one called macro. So we'll open that up. Let's just pull that out. And there's another one called library. And it's automatically plump them together. So what we'll do is we'll just open that up a little bit. A library is, these are the ones I've created in the past. But I think there's a bunch of default ones that get supplied with the system. So you might want to look at them. But what we're going to do is we're going to record what we did. So we're back to, we've just finished stretching around the photo, and we want to paint in the edges and make it sure it's all baked in. So let's delete that layer. Delete. No, go back one more. We've just done the perspective, and that's where we are. So what I do is I hit the record button. It's now recording everything I do. So I'll go over to this panel here. Oh, cancel. I haven't done this in a long time. Let's stop recording. Reset. I've got a feeling it might not allow me. I might have to do it through the menus. Let me just check. I should have practiced this first. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it is in the menus. Okay, jolly good. Right. So I'll do that again. I hit reset. That's that little curly arrow. I'll start again. So I'll hit record and I'll go layer, merge visible, and that creates that layer. You can see it's just done it there. Then I'll do rasterize and trim, which basically trims everything out. Then, and you can see it building up the things here. Then I'll do select alpha. I'll do partial. Then I'll do select row and type in 3, return and apply. And then I'll do edit in paint. And then I'll do deselect. So that's everything I did. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. What I'll do is I'll hit stop, and then I want to add it to my library, and I give it a name. So paint in the edges. And as you can see, I've got different groups here. So it's offering you all of those different groups. I'll just go for default. Okay, so hit OK. And it's added it to my library. And you can see at the bottom there, paint edges, paint in edges. So here's my history. If I take my history back to all the way back to about there, that's where we were. So instead of doing all of that, all I do now is just click on paint edges. You'll think about it for a second. Bam, job done.
Very good.
Whenever I crop or
Can
twist,
you go
yeah,
back?
sorry, I can't hear you. Can you still hear me?
How did you save it?
Um, this button here with the 3 bars, it says add to library. So when you click add to library, it offers you to give it a name, and it can be it doesn't have to be 8 characters. It can be a descriptive name. So basically, we've now done those six operations, and we can now repeat it in any photo by just hitting this paint in the edges. And I've got I personally I just call it Inpaint edges. That's my previous record. And I've got ones for if you remember sharpening, we had to if I wanted let me turn the grid off. View don't show the grid anymore. So if I want to sharpen this photo the way I showed you, there are other ways, but for the moment we'll stick to the high pass sharpen. Was to click on that, pull up the radius and until you start seeing the edges. So we just want to bring it down to say about there, and then we'd hit blend mode, change that to I think I recommended linear light. Okay, so again, a couple of steps to do. And probably if I zoom in a little bit, might see it. So you can see it sharpening up. Probably see it here best. On, off, on. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll delete that. So what I did was I recorded what I did there. So now when I want to sharpen a photo, I just double click that and it sharpens it. There we go, it's done. And if I want to adjust it, I just double click I defaulted it to 1 pixel, but now I could just change it. But it's already got the blend mode selected. That's all recorded. So it's a quick way. Change that back. There we go. So these little shortcuts I record if I want to do something. I know the only good reason for recording it is it's more than 2 or 3 steps, and I'm likely to do it fairly often. That if you find yourself repeating yourself over and over again, and it's something that you're forever doing, then record it. That's what I would suggest. Some people even put up like base layers. So on this one here, so for instance, we've already done some adjustment here. But what I might want to do is record creating a brightness layer and drop it, record another brightness layer and increase it, and call it lighten and darken. So it's all set up for me to start using my paintbrush to lighten and darken different areas of the photo. And it also means it's more consistent in your layer management here. Okay, so that's an introduction to macro. I'll let you play around with it. So hopefully you can create that, and hopefully you can find something that you repeat. and you'd be able to show us next week, maybe, or the week after. So whilst I've got these two extra panels out, this is sort of like the default panels you get, but that's not to mean that you have to stick with them. Okay, so I would tend to keep the layer one in the middle and the first one, and I would tend to keep the histogram and color together at the top, because you generally, the way to think about it is it occupies the same space, and you probably don't want to look at both of them at the same time. So they can share the same space on your board. And the same with here, navigating and history. You wouldn't normally want to look at your history and navigator at the same time. So that's what you tend to do. So layers, channel, brushes. We've got to. We haven't even got. We won't be covering that today. But one thing I will quickly cover is stock. So this, I needed to find a suitable photo for this evening, this building. So rather than go through all my photos, I thought I'd check this out. So I just typed in building. If I just hit return, it will offer me lots and lots of stock images which are free to use. And you can just go through them and pick one. So if I grab that, if I close this image down, just say no to that. So what I can do is I can just, oh yeah, I quite like the look of that photo. You can increase the size, I think. Oh no, can you increase the size? Don't know. Maybe if I move, yeah, if I open it up, no, I think you're just getting more photos. Not sure. But there's two suppliers. There's Pixels and there's Pixabay. And you can tell, oh, that looks quite interesting. You'll get a little disclaimer. These images are provided by a third party, blah, 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 blah. And you have to agree to some terms and conditions. It might be something like you can't take it and then try and sell it, which would be fair enough. So if I grab it and just drop it, it would just drop it in as a photo. It tells you size. Let's just, I'll move that into that panel there. So these macro panels, I do like to keep them open, but I don't use them that much, so I tend to put them here. You just grab it, you move it over, and when you drop it onto an existing bar, navigation bar, you'll just add it to that bar. So I can go back to history or I can go back to navigator, but I can also get to my library fairly easy. Macro, you might not want to. You just want to open it occasionally, but I tend to use it. So there you go. So all these photos are free, and you can use them without cost. The only trouble is, if you were to use them for a club competition, that would be cheating because it's not your own work. So, and I'll give you an example of why you might want to. I'm doing it to show you how to do things without having to look through loads of my own photos, which are not as suitable. So what I'm going to do now, we started with perspective, so we straightened the building. That's probably the most common thing that you're likely to do. But for interior shots, you might actually want to change the perspective of the room, but you also might want to add something into the room at the right perspective. Bit different. So I'm just going to open this image.
Before you go too far, could you
Yeah.
remind me where you got Rasterise from?
It's on the, yeah. When you're on the layer panel, if you right click, you've got rasterize and trim, or just rasterize. Or you can do
What's the difference?
one will just rasterize. Right, we've got this image is sitting in a document which has a size. So this might be an A3, A4 document. So the actual image itself, um, this one, for instance, is bigger than the document space. This one here. Okay. So if I put that there and I said rasterize, so some layers are what we call vector. So if you draw text, that's vector based. Lines, arcs are vectors. But sometimes you can't manipulate stuff in that format. You have to convert it to a rasterized image. Rasterized means just break it down. It's just a bunch of pixels with color. That's it. So the difference would be if I rasterize this image, that's now just, it was all pixels anyway, so I probably didn't do anything to it. But if I did rasterize and trim, it's oh, it should. I don't know. I'll have to find out about that. Yeah, maybe it needs to be the top one. Oh, yeah, I was on the wrong one. I was on this one, and that's the background. Yeah. So if I could do rasterize and trim, it's chopped it to the size of the document, and I can't get it back. But in the case of where we slanted the building in and we ended up with invisible areas, it does a much better job of filling it in if you trim it to the document size. So it's got a containment and it's not going off out into nowhere land. So let me just undo that. I will get it back. So yeah, that's the easiest place to do it. Oh dear me. That was a slipper, which is rasterize and trim or just rasterize. Sometimes the system will even do it for you. So if you try and do something to a layer that can only be done when and it has to be rasterized, quite often you'll see a little message come up and say the software has just rasterized this particular layer because it's the only way it can do it. But you get a warning. You do get a warning. Okay, so what I wanted to do, just move that out of the way for the moment. We've got this building, and you've got perspective in this building. And uh, you might be trying to sell this to someone, sort of like property thing. So wouldn't it be nice to have something on the TV? So instead of it just being, just a random reflection, what we can do is put something on that TV. So I'll bring this in. So we're going to, what we can do is just make this a bit smaller. But the problem is it won't look right, will it? It just doesn't matter what size I make this. That does not look right. So what we want to do is add perspective. So the building, we are trying to remove it, make everything look upright and straight. This is the opposite. We actually want to add perspective. So again, what we do is we will right click on this. Oh, sorry, not right click. Come to the menu and add that perspective again. But we're going to do it the opposite way. Instead of trying to straighten it, we're going to try and add it in. So what I can do is I can come here and I can grab the corners and I can move them into the corners of this TV. I'll just do it roughly to begin with. And you can see the image is being stretched, but it's how you'd expect to see it looking from that angle. Let's do about there. Just make sure that I'm not over the, I'll go over the edge slightly to make sure I haven't made any mistakes. Then I can come in and I can just move that just more precisely. Come into the bottom. Oh, that wasn't too bad. I'll leave that where it is. That was a good guess. Right, and come up here. And I think that needs to go up slightly. Yeah, that looks right. And I think probably the bottom here is actually okay. Yeah, that's okay. So now that looks like if I turn that off. Now that looks like the TV's on and there's a program on. So that's how you can add. You might have a picture of a room, like this, or you've taken an interior shot, but it looks a bit boring. So you might want to add a picture frame in. Now you can go and take a picture of something else and add it into that room. If they're both your pictures, that's perfectly fine. So yeah, that's another quite neat use of perspective. So as you can see here, I went over the edge. So this is where I might actually want to go rasterize and trim. And now that's trim the edge away. It's up to you. You don't have to do it. You might want to leave it like that for the time being, but you can see here that you've got the image, and then this perspective is only being applied to this image, and that's something I want to. What time are we? Oh, blimey! Do I want to start it at 10 to with 10 minutes to go? Probably not. I'll what I was going to do was, and I had it on the list of things to do, which was talk about the order these things are in on this layer. So if very simply, if I move this, if I grab this background and I move it above the other image, that is now top of the stack. So that is what you're seeing, and you can't see the image underneath because it's on top. So I can move it back up. So that's a way. We'll cover this next week. When you how that order affects what you're doing, how you can control it. So you can, well, you saw there, I can move stacks around. You can also group things to make life easier. So if I've got two photos and I've sort of added perspective to this, but I might also, sorry, just grab that. And then I might also want to do, no, let's do a curves adjustment. And I'm going to make it, you see, it's doing it to everything, doing it to the whole picture. Okay. I don't want it on the whole picture. I only wanted it on this one here. But if I just turn that off, see, this is sitting on top of everything. So it's being applied to everything. What I can do is I can grab this and you can see the little bar there. It's saying I'm going to embed it. So now, when I change the curves on this, the rest of the room is staying the same. It's only affecting the picture. That's because this curves is inside this group here, and it won't affect this group here. And if this little arrow here, can you see it? If I click on that, it shows you everything that's linked just to that picture. So the perspective is only being applied to that top image, and the curves adjustment is only being applied to that top image. It's not affecting the original image at all. So that's a way of doing it. And if I click on the background and I add, let's do a curves adjustment again, and I want to darken the room, you can see it's darkening the room, but it's not darkening this chappy, this image,
Very good.
because this image is above, it's on top of the curve adjustment. So the curve adjustment is only applied to things below it or on the same level. So I get the same if I move it into the side here, it look exactly the same because it's only being applied to the background. But you can see it makes it quite nice for grouping. You can see that, oh, that's only got that. I can see what's being applied to each group, and I can now adjust the levels, the contrast, independently. So yeah, I can do the curve. Oop. I can do the curve here. There we go. Make the room very dark.
Mm.
Okay, and then the image. Oh, click on the right bit. I can lighten up the image itself, and we will leave it at that, I think. So we've done curves. Oh, the other thing, yeah, I know, enough for one day. We've done a little bit of how to reset your system. We've recorded a very simple macro, which I'd encourage you to try and replicate once you've got the video. And we've discussed perspective, of straightening a building or adding perspective into a particular flat image, but you want to give it perspective because you're going to put it in a photo where, like this room where it has perspective depth within it. And we've covered the ordering of layers on a very superficial level, just to make you aware of it. I'm not expecting you to particularly do anything with it. I think that is that's almost a lesson in its own right. But you need to be aware of why things are happening. Why isn't that affecting the image below or the image above? Now you've got a little insight into that. I'm not saying we've finished with it, but it's very powerful.